This is Lesa Say with Rain City Capital. Today we have Megan Wilaby here showing us her final finished project at Gold Bar. I'm really excited to share with you the numbers, how the project went, and just talk about the whole project from beginning, middle, and end, just like you guys want. Because it's one thing to like see, this is what we purchased it at, this is the renovation, this is the ARV, but what does that journey look like? And then what is the profit at the end that you get in your pocket? So with me today, Megan Wilaby is gonna share with us. Just let's start out with, remind everybody, how did you purchase this property?
So this house was on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, and it was listed for, I think originally middle 300,000s. And I knew from my numbers I needed to get that into a 2 range, 2 something. So finally, after placing offer after offer after offer, the listing agent was able to negotiate with the asset manager. An asset manager is somebody who works for the bank and represents the bank's interest in the property. And that asset manager said, yes, we can actually get that with a 2 in front of it. So what I ended up paying for the house was $295,000.
Nice, okay. So you negotiated the price, you got it, and then what did you think your first original budget was?
So the first original budget was $100,000.
Okay.
Then after I had the estimate for the electrical rewire, it was $8,000 higher than I originally budgeted.
Okay.
So I had to change it to $108,000.
Awesome. Now, just to remind everybody, please go back and look at the pictures where this property had no flooring. It had nothing. It was just a shell. And really what you've done and to transform it is amazing. We're not on the stools because we have a beautiful property that was staged correctly, so it can list great, which we will be talking about staging in a little bit with Bethanie. But with your budget, was there anything else that was like unforeseen on this project? Okay.
So mentioned before, there was a water line that broke, so there had to be a trench done from the water meter, which is by the street, up to the edge of the house, and then a hole needed to be drilled into the foundation to run the water line through. So that was an extra day of time, and that was also extra money for labor for digging that hole. And then I didn't foresee having all of the drywall removed from the ceiling.
Which is beautiful.
Which, it looks really great, but that was over budget, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think all in all, done $115,000 in construction.
In construction, okay. So then, tell me this, do you always put contingency in your renovation budget?
I believe I had just a few $1,000s for contingency.
Perfect.
And that was at the $108,000.
Yeah,
so I spent all of the contingency and then some.
Perfect. But the beautiful thing is you had a contingency, because I always stress to people, what's the one thing that can get people into trouble is not putting a contingency in their budget. So you did purchase price. Purchase price is what?
$295.
Yep. And then you're all in for renovation?
$115.
Okay. And we're sitting here because it is already pending. So tell me, how did that process go? But before you say that, what were the total days to start to list?
Okay. So from deed to list, it was about 45 days. We try to get in and out within 30 to 45 days on every project, knowing that the house could be on the market for 30 to 45 days before actually closing. So a really ideal project for me and my company is 90 days from start to finish. From deed to deed, 90 days.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Deed to deed. Talk to me about the contingency, and then also tell me, like, why do you put it in? Is every renovation that you've ever done always been on par, exactly the renovation budget amount that you foresee? Because it wasn't that far off, but you always don't want to put money out of your own funds into the deal. You really want to put it in the budget because we reimburse you with the renovation budget, so you want to calculate that. So can you just dive in a little bit about that process about your renovation?
Right. So I have a lot of experience walking through properties. I do all of my own estimates for the rehab project, And I can also look back on previous projects that might have been the same size, and I can say, okay, I know that subfloor is going to cost X dollars. I know that if we have so much drywall that needs to be done, it's going to cost X dollars. If we have electrical, this is what my electrician would be charging for electrical work. So I take all of that and I think, okay, there might be some unforeseens there. So I might pad that section of the budget. So if I think electrical is going to be 10,000, I might put 12. Thinking, okay, now I built a contingency into that part of the budget. But then I also try to add a little bit more at the bottom line of, hey, this might be, we might have extra dump fees, might have extra landscaping that needs to be done. Maybe there's a storm and a tree falls down in the backyard and that's after I purchased the house and I own the house. Now there's something extra that needs to be spent in order to make the house work.
That makes sense.
So that's how I put my budgets together and my contingencies. So this one just ended up going about 10% over, which is not bad.
No, that's not.
No.
For someone like yourself that has been doing this a really long time, you have a crew, you've gone and you just know when you walk through a property, oh, this is going to cost 5, this is going to cost 10. Someone quotes you different, then you know that's not accurate. What do you think you did to get to that point? So someone starting out new, listening to this, and our whole vision here is to inspire people to want to do this and to actually see the gritty work that it takes and the success and do's and don'ts, but just kind of inspire someone. So if no one knows what it costs, what do you suggest on how to figure out those numbers?
So that's a tough one. So if I work with investors, I will walk through the home and put that spreadsheet together for them. And so that gives them a ballpark of what they're looking for. If it's a person who might be out of my area that I'll work with, sometimes a video walkthrough will help, and I can just put together a rough budget based on what they're showing me. A lot of times when I get a house sent to me by a wholesaler or I see a house on the MLS, I can put a budget together based on what I see in the pictures. So there may be some stuff underneath the house. I don't crawl under houses and I don't go in attics, but I have to put a contingency in there for insulation and vapor barrier and maybe some foundation work. But a foundation, you could tell by walking through the house. Is it level? There are some cracks in the foundation. Sometimes if it's a lot of foundation work, I don't touch the houses. I don't want to take the time to repair it.
Every investor has their
No.
this is not what I'm doing. And so what I'm really hearing is if you don't know your numbers and you've never done this before, work with someone that does. Work with an agent that's also an investor, so then that way you kind of can lean on their expertise and their process, so you also can become an amazing investor yourself, but really work with someone that knows what they're doing. And I've always said you can always follow someone and say, hey, can I walk with you and see how this process works? And most investors are so willing to help and want to teach someone.
I love sharing the project. So if anybody's interested in walking through a house with me, get a hold of me ahead of time. I usually know what my schedule is going to look like. And if you want to make the drive and walk through a property with me and just learn something, I'm happy to do that. I think we were going to talk about the profit margin and somebody the holding costs.
Yes, absolutely. So, thank you for diving into that budget, because that's honestly what scares a lot of people is choosing the renovation amount, picking it, sticking to it. What happens if I go over, and then what does that look like? So let's talk about, one more time, what was the purchase price, the actual renovation, and then what did you sell it for?
Okay, purchase price was $295. Renovation ended up being $115.
Okay.
So that puts us all in at $410, just purchase and just construction. Okay. So the list price is $489. It's under contract for $489. Yes. So that's a $79,000 spread between the sales price and then what I spent on the house. But a lot of things that go along with that are holding costs. So the interest payments that I make on the property, which is why I want to get in and out in 30 to 45 days, and then from deed to deed, 90 days. I want 3 months of payments, and that's it. Insurance. The insurance on a house like this is a little more expensive because it's a vacant home policy and it's also a construction policy. So it's not a homeowner's policy where you're living here. If there's a water break, you're here and can turn the water off. If it's a vacant home, there's a lot more risk. Even though it's beautiful and looks wonderful, there's a lot more risk by having it be vacant. That insurance is more expensive. There is title and escrow fees upon closing.
Yes.
So that could be, $1,500 for title, $1,500 for escrow fees, and then of course commissions. You gotta pay a real estate agent to list your house,
right?
Stage the home, take photos, videos, make it look absolutely beautiful, and then that agent also works really hard for the investor. Now I'm my own agent, but I never discount my listing fee because if I wasn't listing it myself, I would have to pay somebody to list my property.
Right.
So everything is in the spreadsheet before I even make an offer on the property. Do the numbers work for me? Location, we're out in Gold Bar. We're on the other side of town.
Yeah.
But the math is the math. So just remember that. This may not be an area that you particularly want to live in, but a lot of other people do live here. This is a community. Yes. There are people that own houses in this community. And the math for me worked enough to make me go for this property.
Absolutely.
Go for this project.
And I really appreciate you sharing that nitty gritty of it, because people are like, what? I made $70,000 in, deed to deed, that I made $70,000 in 60 days or 90 days. But really, you got to break down that cost. And then, so what are you going to be netting after everything is done? Paying for yourself for listing agent, all of that. What's going to be your commission?
So a good estimate is 10% of the selling, the listing price or the contract price. So $489 is the list price. It's under contract for $489. So $48,900 is usually going to be what that cost is to sell the property. So if we're looking at a $70,000 or $79,000 spread between construction and purchase and then sales, well, we're backing out $50,000 from that. So the profit margin is about $25,000 to maybe $29,000.
Yeah.
And I won't know until I get this settlement statement from the escrow company. Usually I'll receive that a couple of days before closing. I input all my numbers into QuickBooks.
Yep.
I do class tracking, which means I take the address of the home and all the expenses are associated with that address. Then I can do a profit and loss based on the address, and I can see the bottom line after everything is in. I can see what my profit margin is, and it is to the penny.
Oh, I love it. I love that. And thanks for that little tidbit to share with everybody on that. So if you're making, I'm just going to round up a little bit. Let's say $30,000 after everything is said and done on this property, and you're in and out in such a short period of time. How many a year do you anticipate that you're trying to go for?
So my goal this year is 30 homes. So
yes, that's awesome.
So far, we're on track to be able to do the 30 homes.
Oh, that's
yes. I think this is number 9.
Yes,
and then there's other that are in process. So there's going to be 2 coming on the market pretty soon. There's going to be a couple of them closing. There's 4 in the pipeline for closing and then having the project start.
Yep.
So it's definitely rolling through, and it's starting to accelerate a little bit now. So.
Yes, I think you're getting really excited about this.
I'm really excited.
You had a set of vision, and you're moving forward on it. So, also tell me, do you have your own crew, or do you consistently sub out? How does that work?
Okay, so I have a very loyal set of people that work with me. So there's a contracting company. They only do flips for me. So when you see Flip or Flop or whatever those shows are, and they have their contractor that you see that same guy all the time,
Megan
I have one of those people.
That's awesome.
And they're wonderful. And they're actually going to be doing their own flip.
Yes,
they're going to be doing their own flip. So
I'm
excited. So anyway, so and then I have an electrician, I have a plumber, I have people that I work with on a really consistent basis because they're very knowledgeable. They know what I expect. They can work on their own. They do not need a lot of hand holding.
Yes.
and then they'll show up when they say they're going to show up, which is really, really important. I think as I have gotten bigger and have done more houses, Bethanie's great. She's the project manager. She's scheduled. She's the designer, and she's really brought a lot more organization to the company.
Oh, wonderful.
But now we're starting to realize that some of our subs can't keep up with us. And they are starting to it becomes very frustrating.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to look for is somebody who's punctual, who says what they're going to do, who can keep up with our process. And we're finding some of the rudimentary scheduling systems that some of our subs have just aren't really working for us anymore.
That's a little bit of part of growing and becoming bigger, is figuring out who's also going to work well with you as well, right? Okay, so we talked about the beginning, we talked about the middle, and now we talked about the end. So when is this house going to close?
June 26th.
Oh, that's so great. So I would love to share this house one more time with everybody. We're going to do another, just a walkthrough so you can see the beginning towards the end and what the transformation that you did. The thing that I love the most is just you're bringing so much value into a community, and a house that was a complete dump that had no flooring. Now someone is able to live here, enjoy the property, and you're just going to continue to make the community even better.
So I have a great story about the buyers.
Oh,
okay.
Yes,
so
I
a
love that.
great story about the buyers.
Yes.
So I was showing the house. I was touring with a couple who had shown some interest in the home. They had called because they were coming back from Ellensburg from Leavenworth, and so they were coming through and said, "Hey, we want to take a look at the community." They gave me a call. We met out here a couple days later. After they were done seeing the house, then I had an agent call and say, "I've got a buyer who's interested. He lives out of state.
Yep.
Is there any way that you might be able to do a tour for the buyer?" And I said, "Well, I actually am here now. Let's do FaceTime, iPhone, FaceTime." So he was able to bring the buyer in. He was in South Carolina. The agent was down south. I think he lives down by you.
Oh, wow.
And so he would have had a really long commute to come up to show the house.
Yes.
And so we were able to do a three-way FaceTime,
Wonderful.
tour the property. The buyer's like, "Yes, I'm all over it."
Yeah.
Well, he had to sell his house.
Yes.
And so there was maybe a 7 to 10 day delay between the time that I showed him the property through a FaceTime, and that they were able to place the offer on the house. But he sold his house, so we're not contingent anymore.
Oh.
So closing is.
Yes.
But that's a great. That's really a great story to show that being proactive, making suggestions, being able to be very nimble and say, "Hey, you don't have to show your buyer the house. Let's go ahead and have a conversation."
Yes.
Over iPhones.
Yes. Let's make sure you get a deal from iPhones on that.
Come on, you know.
Yes. That's wonderful.
FaceTime is really important for real estate agents. I'm just letting you know.
Yes, I love that piece that you can share as an agent and also an investor what helps both situations for those people that are watching us on there. Well, Megan, I absolutely enjoy this whole process that we had together, and I'm looking forward to many, many more. This won't be the last that we will share of her projects, but I hope you enjoy the finished project, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, now we're gonna hear from Bethanie. She's actually on another project of Megan's because Megan keeps her so busy. So we're gonna hear from her now. Hi, it's Lesa Say with Rain City Capital. Tonight we're gonna have Bethanie from Evolution Properties. She is the project manager and the head of creative design for Megan Wilaby and her projects. We wanna just take a moment and just really hear and explore how she designs Megan's properties, what she does. Does she wait till the end? Does she do it from the beginning? And I thank you so much for taking this opportunity and talking with us for a couple of minutes. So thank you. Welcome.
Oh, hey, Lesa. No, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I always love when I walk into Megan's done property, I'm like, holy crap, Bethanie, you did such an amazing job, and you capture the property and what it needs to highlight. So tell me, why is it so important to have a project manager, head of creative designer on a project? Tell me, what do you do and how does it benefit these projects?
That's a great question. So it's really important to have a project manager because you have a lot of bodies and people in play to bring every single project from start to finish. And so if you don't have a project manager keeping a really comprehensive calendar, having a good relationship with our subcontractors, our general contractors, you can go left really fast. And we have very short timelines, as you know. I mean, on this project, we were in and out in under 45 days. And so if you think about, we have 3 to 4 projects every single month that are rolling into another. One is closing, another is starting. If we don't keep accurate timelines and keep everybody in communication, you could take 90 days on a 45-day project. You could take 180 days. So I think that's just really important, is to maintain a timeline. As far as having someone with a background in design, you need to be able to marry what is going to be looked for by consumers. And, you know, it's not only just paint colors, right? It could be an aesthetic. It could be certain lighting in a certain type of kitchen. It could be window treatments. It could be anything that's going to capture the essence of each particular home. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I definitely see how you two work so beautifully together, and that it gives Megan then the opportunity to feed more deals in the system. It's not, she's not project managing every single one of them. You're doing it. You're doing the design, but then she can also then find more deals. So in turn, you guys are doing more. How do you incorporate the design with the project managing aspect?
For me, it's just natural. It is completely how my brain works. So from the very, very beginning, when we're walking through a project, I'm already thinking about who the end consumer is, like we were speaking of earlier. I'm already thinking about, how is a family going to live in the home? How are they going to entertain in the space? You know, if they have kids, what does that look like? So I'm doing it right from the very beginning. I'm also already thinking about textiles. I'm thinking about flooring. I'm thinking about, you know, wall treatments. We generally do paint, but if we were to do a wallpaper, I'm already thinking about that from the beginning. Of course, we always are keeping in mind the budget. So I try to rein back that design beast that I have, you know, inside of me until we've put together the budget for the rehab. Because obviously keeping a home, making it sound for the end buyer takes priority over design, right? We want to make sure we have, you know, electricity, plumbing, all of that is sound, insulation, everything is good for that consumer. And then from there, we can determine, you know, what can we do to really jazz the place up.
Right. And I think, like, in the Gold Bar, what I absolutely loved was that second in the kitchen where you had the, what do you call it? What, the bar, the extra bar?
Yeah, the multi-level eating bar. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So was that something you already saw, or was that after the building, you're like, wait, this would be perfect? And so then kind of capture why you did that.
Yeah, that's also a great question. So if you remember, when you walked into that house, you walked right into the back of like this kitchen closet that had the refrigerator. So you couldn't even see how grand this kitchen was. And so once we decided to take that closet out, all of a sudden you did a full 360 and you're like, this is a massive kitchen. This is perfect for introducing a new design element that we've never done. I've been wanting to do one of those islands or eating bars in a home for a long time, and it was just the perfect place. Now, we didn't have the largest design budget at this house. We had other things that were more important to take care of, you know, inside and underneath the house to make it sound. And so we chose 2 things to make that house pop. And one was that design island, that eating island, as well as the beautiful blue wall with the floating shelves. And they tie in together, they modernize the home, but they're also comfortable and cozy for long time living.
Right, absolutely. And you touch base on the blue. I see more and more investors, the more they have a signature color. Yours is that beautiful blue. Was this intentional, or did it become intentional? Do you know what I mean?
Completely. It became intentional. We actually lots of trial and error trying to find the right blue for a brick fireplace at a prior rehab. And I had, you know, one color blue with different varying degrees of black added to it. And I kept adding. And finally it was like, this is it. We're as high as we can go with adding dark to this color. And it was a hit at the house. We did it in 2 areas in this one property, and it was a hit. And it's like at every house we go to, whether it's a modern, whether it's classic or traditional, we've been able to find a place to put this beautiful blue. I think it's called Distant Star, but then we added dark to it. So I don't know, it's Evolution Blue.
It's yours.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's Evolution Blue. I love it.
And it really just adds character and warmth to every house that we've put it in. It doesn't go in every single property. Like, it doesn't have its place in every home, but it can work in a lot of places, which we're finding out.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. If you're an investor and they're starting out and they maybe just have a project manager, what advice would you give them or tip would you give them for the design aspect?
I would first of all keep it simple. Right? Keep it simple. Get your core things, your fundamentals, your foundational items checked off the list before you go crazy, because it's so easy to shop and overspend, and you just don't want to do it. You don't want to waste your time. Time is money. You don't want to buy things that you then have to return. Really, really, really make sure that everything is aligned before you jump in and buy all the accessories and the lighting. From there, choose 1 or 2 features that you're going to focus on for that home. So is it texture? Is it a textile? Is it an eating bar and then everything plays off of that? Is it a really amazing flush mount light, over the dining room table? That light in that house is spectacular, right? Mm-hmm. It's simple, but it adds beautiful shadows to the home. Like it's just amazing. And so, find 1 or 2 things that then you play off of in the rest of the design.
Oh, that's an excellent tip. I love that. What about an investor saying, hey, I spent all my money, but I don't want to stage the property, because is it really going to matter? Is staging really going to matter? Do you want to touch on that? Because I know I have a strong bias that it absolutely matters, and you're doing your project a disservice if you don't stage your property. But you're the expert. You tell me.
Yes. Well, let's be honest. By the numbers, homes that are staged sell what? 10 times as fast. I mean, I don't know that that's the number, but it's a really big amount that they sell faster. Because well, what are you doing? You are setting the stage that somebody can recognize how they can live in a home. And I have to be honest, like, we have flipped some really strange flow, rooms and houses that just have strange flow. And if you don't stage them so that people understand how to maneuver through the space, you may not sell your house. Okay. Yeah. Especially if you have a smaller home, or like here at the Gold Bar property, we had the ginormous front room because they had a converted garage, right? So what did we do there? Yes. We actually split the space into 2/3 and a 1/3. So the far 1/3 had carpet. It had the beautiful blue wall with the shelves. It had a slider out to the front yard. And so that became more of a stage as a cozy den, right? A little family area where you could be warm, have your blanket, read a book. Then you have the other 2/3 that had the beautiful LVP flooring that flowed into the kitchen. So that's a much more formal living space. But you could have that offshoot where it's a little more warm, a little cozier. And so, there's always opportunities for staging. But if we had left it without the staging, you would have walked into that room and gone, what do I do? What do I do here? I have no idea. And then they'd say, and why did they put the carpet right there? Like, the carpet makes no sense. Like, it's just 2/3 over there. So I really think staging tells a story for the future homeowner. Beautiful.
I love that. Staging tells a story. That's a good one. Those are really awesome nuggets, and I really appreciate it, because that's word of wisdom versus your experience and your time on that. What would you say as the project management side of things would be something that's really important that you wish more investors knew?
Do your research, right? Do your research. I know you asked Megan a very similar question, and her response was, just do it already, right? Just jump off that ledge, buy your property. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. For me, I just would say, write everything down. right? Write everything down, document the conversations you have with people. If you have contracts and expectations, get it in writing, right? Because there's just so much happening in this industry, and it's really easy to forget things. And, again, time is money, and we remember things a certain way. Well, guess what? All 5 of your subs also remember things a certain way. So documentation.
Oh man, I'm just thinking of like when you say time is money, and you coming on and spending time with me today and sharing this knowledge. Just in this short period of time, you have put so many nuggets that would help so many people. And I hope they're listening to that, because you guys do run a successful business and flipping and providing beautiful homes to the community. And if anybody ever wants to look at how it's done before and after, you do a great job with the social media aspect as well, documenting and seeing before and after and seeing your work that you do. And I truly appreciate you taking the time and talking about this, because this is also part of the journey of an investor and what it takes from the beginning to the end, and having good people like you on their team to help manage and do the property management and also make it look beautiful. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed myself.